Welcome back to Rolando Estocada, and we're going to be covering something very special today. This is my prized collection of Camillus OVB. OVB stands for Our Very Best Production Jerry Fisk Bowie Knives. And I'm very proud of this collection because it was quite the acquisition back in the early 2000s when they were first released. I think it was around 2001 or 2002 when they were first released, and they became instant classics, instant grails, because Jerry Fisk, in my opinion, the best Bowie knife maker alive, and he is somebody that whose work is so coveted. Easily, you're looking at about a 5 to 10 year wait list, so nobody can get on his wait list. And the only way I could get my hands on a Fisk Bowie knife was really to purchase these amazing production pieces. These Bowie knives were in collaboration with Camillus, and Camillus was one of the great factory knife makers, I think going all the way back to the early 20th century, and in fact one of the main suppliers of our American troops in World War II. So I'm glad to be an owner also of a classic, Camillus Knives, American classic, but also Jerry Fisk Bowie Knives. So I have, these are kept pristine. They're always in their box, always in their plastic covering. This was something that I received as instructions from Jerry Fisk himself. He was, those were the days when he was, if I'm not mistaken, he was very active on Blade forums, and I was very lucky to have had a couple of communications with him, and he gave me pretty clear instructions on how to store them. But he was also very clear that these are work knives. So when he designed them, these were the days when knife competitions, Bowie knife competitions, and as some of you may know, knife competitions is when you pretty much put your knives through a marathon of tasks, which is cutting rope, cutting tennis balls, bobbing for apples, chopping through 2x4s, you name it, you go through it. And these were designed really as his workhorse knives. And if you think about it, if you own a Fisk Bowie knife, a custom knife, these are such gorgeous pieces of works that you're not really going to go ahead and put them through the kind of marathon that you would put through a Bowie knife through in one of those competitions, let alone even cut paper. So you would probably keep them pretty pristine. So these are his workhorses. And we have two classes over here. We have these two separate ones. This one is, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 10.5 or 11 inches. This is the bigger one. And this is the 10.5 one also. And these two are the smaller ones. And if I'm not mistaken, those are in 7 inches. And so we have two kinds of wood, and I want to go through this just so I make sure that I have the accurate information. I still have these beauties over here, which is really one hell of a throwback. Look at that, 2002 Camillus. What a heck of a throwback. But let me go ahead and open this one up over here. So what it says is that this knife starts out as a billet of our premium 0170-6C carbon steel and is mated to a hand-selected stabilized amber fiddleback maple handle. A precision fit guard and a ferrule add a touch of class and are accented by stainless steel handle bolts. So this one is the paperwork for the 7-inch flat grind, but this one is about 10.5 inches. So these are all flat grind, really super sharp and really amazing to work with as far as my own practice is concerned. They're absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to go through them one at a time. The first one I actually ended up purchasing, beauty over here. And the first time I purchased this, it was during the time where I was a little bit on the fence about Randalls, because Randalls were not only price prohibitive, it was very hard to get them at the time in the early 2000s because they were contracted out to the United States military, so they were supplying them first. So in order for me to get something premium in terms of a 7-inch blade, I went the route of Camillus OVB Fisk. And I have to tell you a few things about this. First of all, this over here is so super smooth. and it feels so good in the hand. The texturing is really nice, and I hope the camera can capture it. I think it is. But look at that beautiful texturing over here. It's just so wonderful, and I've had this for over 20 years now. Absolutely gorgeous. And look at this guard. The rubber spacer is such a nice classic touch. And it says here on the knife itself, National Living Treasure Series, Jerry Fisk Mastersmith. The number I don't think is on the blade itself, but it's on the box that it comes in, which I keep pristine as well. But this feels absolutely light, absolutely beautiful in the hand. But the one thing I do want you to take a look at is that the handle is shaped narrow, so that when I put this in my hand, it folds in and it really lands very well on that palm swell over here, so that if I apply my weight to it, my tricep line really lines up very well on the handle, so that if I'm doing push cuts or slicing maneuvers, it's really designed as a workhorse, because that push cut really transfers through very well. And if I'm not mistaken, my communication with Jerry at the time, he said, yeah, he was cutting through manila rope with it, he was going through 2x4s with it, and it was no problem at all. And I was very new to my knife collecting days at the time, so this was a shock to me that, oh my God, you're putting this knife through its paces. And I just loved it so much that I thought, well, I'm gonna save my pennies, and I'm gonna go ahead, if possible, to try to find the bigger brother. By the way, some of you may not know this, but Camillus, not only is Camillus no longer in business, but this is a limited edition. I think it was probably 500 pieces of the shorter 7-inch ones, but I think only 250 of the bigger ones. I could be wrong, somebody can correct me. If it's a different kind of information, if it's more, please leave it in the comment section, but I think there was only 250 of the bigger ones. So I got the 7-inch version, then I moved on to the bigger version, and I have to say, I own Bill Bagwell custom knives. I own 2 of them. You can take a look at it in my other videos, but holy smokes, the first time I handled this out of the box, I almost jumped ship. I literally almost jumped ship, and I thought, that's it, Jerry Fisk all the way. This, because it feels so light, it feels so lively in the hand. It's just so alive in the hand. It's so fast, it's so good. However, as a production knife, I'm not too happy that it does not have a false edge. So again, as part of my Rolando Estocada practice, Bowie Knife Combatives is a very important piece to me. So not having this part all of a sudden makes me think, all right, not quite, almost, don't quite jump ship yet. Maybe one of these days I will own a Fisk custom Bowie. If this is any indicator of the quality and the feel, holy smokes, this Southwest Bowie that he has made, and this is the production piece, I am so thrilled with this. I absolutely love it. You can see the V flat grind on it. It is really super sharp and really super fine, but it's also a very wide piece. So if I'm doing any sort of Bowie knife flow with it, like a back cut flow, it actually lends itself better to snap cuts and thrusts. And that I can see, because if Jerry made this really more as a workhorse, like for your competition type of Bowie knife, you're not really going to be doing any back cuts with it. So this is a really purpose-driven knife. So I would feel absolutely confident. I mean, I don't do competitions, but if I were, I would feel very confident using this particular knife. Now I'm going to move on to the other 7-inch version of it. On the catalog, it says Amber Fiddleback, and I think that's this version over here, but I'm positive this is not Amber Fiddleback. This is a completely different wood altogether. Yes, I just looked it up. This is a light curly maple. This is a light curly maple, and I gotta tell you, this is the most beautiful handle I have ever seen On a production knife, easily. And I don't even want to say custom, but it's very close. Look how beautiful it is in the natural light. Look at the workmanship in terms of how smooth that is. And it just feels so amazing in the hand. It's so buttery smooth. Now we're going to move on to the light curly maple Big Brother. Look how amazing that is. Look at that flat grind, that V flat grind. You can just see it. Look how sharp that is. You can just tell, even on the camera. And I love. This entire series here, maybe once or twice a year, I do a back cut flow, I do a Sinawali flow, I do an Espada Idaga flow because they just feel so good. It's just this. It's like a treat for me when I work with them. They're just so super good. They're so super light. And I gotta tell you, I love just how narrow this handle is. And going back to what Jerry said about this is a workhorse where he would use them in Bowie knife competitions where they have to cut, they gotta slice, and they have to stay sharp the whole time. The ergonomics are designed as such so that when it really lines up on the palm swell over here, so that when a competitor has to chop or slice or do a push cut, the entire tricep line is aligned with the handle. And it's very reminiscent of a very different kind of handle that also requires some high level and high volume cutting and slicing, and it's actually a samurai sword. So what I have here is the handle of the Hanwei Tori Elite, and the handle design here is really good, but as you can see, it is similarly narrow in design, so that when the hand really wraps around the handle, what it does is that it aligns the tricep line so that when you do a push cut or a slice, the entire body, the entire anatomy actually supports and lines up with the handle, and any force is transferred through the blade. So I'm not saying that Mr. Fisk went ahead and took inspiration from the samurai sword, from the katana, but I think that the purpose of a blade, ultimately, form follows function, and that function is very similar between the two, and ultimately the form of the handle is very similar to the function of a samurai sword, where high volume cutting, slicing, push cutting is the name of the game. I gotta tell you that I consider myself very lucky to have this set, and also as a Filipino martial artist, I feel very lucky because if I'm going to do any Sinawali work, I have two of equal length that are working here, and I'm very excited to be able to do that. But if I'm going to do any sort of Espada Idaga work, long and short work, I have these two amazing beauties to work with, and I'm just really excited to show you how these two flow. And I'd say about once or twice a year I treat myself because for the most part they stay hidden in the back with the vault and all those other things. Well, I treat these as national living treasures, not only because of the fact that they were made by Camillus, but they were also made in collaboration with Master Smith Jerry Fisk. I am so excited to be sharing these with you, and I can't wait to show you how I flow with them. They are really phenomenal works of art, and I can't wait to show you how I flow with them. The 11-inch Camillus Fisk OVB Bowie knife is a real pleasure to work with. When I do my back cut flows with it, I'm working with 4 primary offensive techniques. We're looking at back cuts, snap cuts, we're looking at thrusts, and also a reverso. So when I'm moving with these, I'm always judging it in terms of how it moves, but also my rate of perceived effort, my RPE. This one takes a little bit more effort because it's not balanced like a true fighter, where a true fighter kind of anticipates where you're going to move next, a la Bagwell Bowie. But this one is so lightning fast that it's practically effortless to work with. Now we go with the 7-inch Espada y Daga style. So now having to work with both of them in this beautiful flow is very reminiscent of the custom double Bagwells that I have, where one is really the heavy, the one that comes in, where the one on the left, the 7-incher, is more of the sniper. But in this instance, since it's shorter, I like to come in with it with those short thrusts when I go into close quarter drills. I really love how they flow together. Really super light, really super comfortable. I'm very lucky to have found all 4 of them and add them to my collection, because like I said, about once or twice, sometimes maybe 3 times a year, I like to flow with them just to spoil myself, because I can really see how the workmanship of Mr. Fisk has transferred over into a production knife. So fluid, so amazing to work with, that I, as a practitioner, really enjoy working with it. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Stick around, stay tuned, more to come.